It all kicked off back in the spring of 2014. I was 26. Clara, my wife, was 27. We'd been together 5 years, married for 2. We met in college, me studying mechanical engineering, her in accounting. The first time we talked was at a frat party thrown by a mutual friend. We bonded over cheap sangria and a playlist full of terrible early 2000s dance tracks. Not exactly romantic, but it worked. From the jump, there was a pull between us. Clara was striking classy in that cool, composed way. She always wore her long, dark hair in a perfect ponytail. Her eyes had this way of looking clean through you, and her voice? Sharp, precise. Like every word was being measured before it left her mouth. You didn't just talk around Clara, you tried to measure up. And I liked that challenge. I was taller, louder, full of ambition. Folks always said I looked older than my age, probably because I carried that restless look like I was always chasing something. We were different, sure, but we clicked fast. And not long after that, we were practically inseparable. By the end of that first year, we were planning a wedding. Clara, to me, was the total package: smart, confident, always pushing me to level up. She wanted stability, a life of comfort. I told her I'd build that from the ground up if I had to. But I'll say this, marriage isn't just 2 people. It's 2 families. And Clara's mother, Mariel, made sure I never forgot that. From the moment we met, she treated me like a stray dog Clara brought home out of pity. Didn't matter how polite I was or how hard I tried. I brought flowers, helped clean up, stayed respectful. None of it mattered to Mariel. I'll never forget our first dinner. She looked me straight in the eye across that table, then turned to Clara and said, "My dear, you deserve someone far more refined." That was her way of saying I'd never be enough. She thought her daughter, the polished future accountant, should end up with someone cultured, sophisticated, not a gearhead from an engineering program. But I married Clara anyway, and in a way, that felt like a win, like I'd proved Mariel wrong. Her husband, Marco, my father-in-law, was a ghost of a man. Said little, and when he did, it was all small talk. Weather, yard work. I don't think he ever dared cross Mariel, so he just kept his head down and smiled. Clara had an older sister, Elena, who was married to Julian. Julian and I got along all right in the beginning. We'd talk about sports or crack a few jokes. He wasn't warm, but at least he wasn't lobbing passive-aggressive insults like Mariel. Elena was softer than Clara, more fragile, like she'd break if you looked at her wrong. Everyone in the family knew she'd been trying to get pregnant for years with no luck. As for Clara and me, kids weren't on the table yet. We had other plans: pay off the mortgage, travel a bit, chase our careers. "We've got time," Clara used to say, flipping her hair like she knew best. "There are more important things first." I'd always nod, pretending I was on board. Truth was, I didn't mind the delay. I had goals. I wanted to climb the ladder at the engineering firm, prove myself before tying my life down with diapers and daycare. Waiting meant freedom, and I liked that. But everything started to shift a year into our marriage. Mariel took a fall and landed in the hospital for 2 days. Just needed bed rest, that's what the doctors said. But Clara spiraled the second she heard. If there was one person who could get inside her head and twist it around, it was Mariel. That woman had been drilling the same message into Clara's ears for years: family is everything, and a woman's legacy is giving life to the next generation. Clara camped out at her mother's bedside like it was a death vigil. I'd show up with flowers, try to be kind. But Mariel wouldn't even look at me. When she did speak, it was with a scoff. "Don't you have something better to do?" Or, "Why doesn't your firm keep you busier?" No moment was too small for a dig. And after that hospital stint, she laid it on thicker than ever about grandchildren. A few weeks later, it was Mariel and Marco's 30th wedding anniversary. The whole family was there: tuxes, gowns, candlelit ballroom, forced smiles all around. I remember walking in and feeling that weird weight in the air, like something was about to drop. And it did. I knew something was coming that night. I could feel it in the room, the kind of heaviness that creeps in before people say something they can't take back. And sure enough, Mariel made her grand entrance like she was starring in a family soap opera. She took the microphone with all eyes on her and launched into a speech about her health, how fragile it was, how her biggest fear wasn't dying, but dying without ever becoming a grandmother. Right there in the middle of the ballroom, Elena broke down crying. Said she'd been to every fertility clinic they could find. Nothing had worked. She couldn't carry a child, and it was slowly crushing her. Julian stood behind her, silent, jaw locked so tight it looked like he was grinding his teeth. He didn't say a word. Mariel, now deep into her one-woman show of gloom, turned the spotlight back on herself. "I just want grandchildren," she said, tears welling up right on cue. Elena tried, but it looks like we might never have a child in this family's bloodline. Then she looked right at me, like I was the problem, Like it was my fault Clara hadn't delivered the heir she so desperately wanted. That moment? That's when the tension officially set in. On the way home, Clara was quiet for a long time. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "I can't stop picturing Mom in that hospital bed." Her voice cracked. What if she never gets to hold a grandchild? What if Elena never? She didn't finish. Just stared out the window like the weight of it all had suddenly landed on her. I reached over and took her hand. "We've got time," I said gently. "Let's not rush." But inside, I was spiraling. I'd grown to like my independence. I liked being able to come and go, build my career, sleep in on weekends. And now it felt like everyone, Clara, her mother, this whole family, was trying to back me into a corner. Looking back, I think I'd been carrying that resentment longer than I realized. I was doing well at work, building a future, and I wanted to chase something meaningful on my terms. But the more I heard about babies, about legacy, the more I pulled away. Quietly, I started to get bitter. Not just at Clara, but especially at Mariel. Every time she brought up grandchildren, I wanted to snap. And honestly, sometimes I did. A few months after that party, Mariel showed up unannounced. No call, no warning. Just let herself in while Clara was upstairs napping. I was half laid out on the couch, scrolling my phone, when she appeared in the hallway, scanning the living room like she was about to call in a cleaning crew. "How do you keep this place so improvised?" she said, lips pursed. Clara must hate living in such disarray. I sat up and crossed my arms. "Maybe if you called first, I could have tidied up a bit for you," I replied, voice soaked in sarcasm. She narrowed her eyes. Such arrogance. I don't know how my daughter tolerates it. She was itching for a fight, and truth be told, so was I. But I held back. Clara didn't need to wake up and see her husband and mother going at it like dogs in a yard. Eventually, Mariel stormed off in a flurry of fake concern. I just wanted to check on my daughter. Slammed the door behind her like she was storming a stage. And yeah, I smirked. Another round one. But the silence between Clara and me kept growing. The whole baby issue had started seeping into our marriage like water under a door. We didn't talk about it much, but it was always there, in passing comments about her mother's health, or some new treatment Elena was trying. Then one Saturday afternoon, everything changed. I'd just gotten back from the gym when Clara called. Her voice was shaking. "Ethan, I'm at the hospital. It's Elena. She tried to hurt herself." She paused, trying to steady her breathing. "She's in critical condition. You should come." I grabbed my keys and was out the door in seconds. I wasn't Elena's biggest fan, always whining about not having a baby, but I never wanted her hurt. And if she was desperate enough to try and end it, that meant something inside her had truly broken. When I got there, Clara's eyes were swollen from crying. Mariel was off near a vending machine, arms folded, cold as ever. She barely looked my way. Julian was pacing the hallway like a man trapped in a nightmare, muttering to himself under his breath. I went straight to Clara. "Is she going to be okay?" Clara nodded, tears falling. "Physically, maybe. They're pumping her stomach. Pills." Then she looked over at Mariel and back at me. She couldn't take it anymore. The stress, the pressure, Mom's expectations. It just built up. Mariel finally turned toward me, eyes like knives. "You do realize," she hissed, "if you and Clara had just given us a child, Elena wouldn't have had to carry this alone." I stared at her. Her audacity knocked the breath clean out of my lungs. "That's not how mental health works," I snapped, my voice trembling with fury. "Don't pin your daughter's breakdown on me." I saw Clara tense, her shoulders stiffening, but like always, she didn't speak up. Not in front of her mother. She never did. 2 days later, Elena was discharged from the hospital. Still pale, still shaky. That weekend, the whole family gathered at Mariel's house like it was some emergency summit. The living room felt like a pressure cooker. Too many people in one place, everyone whispering, avoiding eye contact. Mariel sat at the head of it all like a bitter queen on her throne, scanning each of us with that hollow expression of controlled disappointment. The same complaints circled the room like vultures. No grandchildren. So much heartbreak. A dying mother's final wish. I sat there quietly, patience wearing thin, until I finally spoke up. "What about adoption?" I asked, clearing my throat. "For Elena and Julian, I mean, could be a beautiful thing." "Adoption." Mariel nearly spat the word. "That's not a real grandchild. We're talking about bloodline. Legacy." She folded her arms and let that hang in the air like a verdict. "It's not an option." I could feel my mouth twitch into a smirk. "That's archaic. And cruel." The room fell silent. Clara shot me a glare. Elena looked like she'd shrink into the couch. Julian crossed his arms and stared at the floor, clearly annoyed. "Adoption's complicated," he muttered, not looking up. "And expensive." I didn't realize it at the time, but that conversation? That's when they hatched the plan. The one that would spin my whole world sideways. In the weeks that followed, Elena and Julian started dropping by more often. At first, they played it casual, dinner here, a check-in there. But I noticed the whispers in the kitchen. Low voices. Secretive glances. Whenever I walked in, they'd go quiet. Clara got cagey too. Her phone, always buzzing. And every time it did, she'd grab it fast, tilting the screen away from me like I couldn't be trusted. When I asked, she brushed me off. Just Elena. She's still in a fragile place. You wouldn't get it. Maybe I would have let it slide, if it weren't for the way Clara started acting. Arrogant. Dismissive. Cold. Every time I questioned her, she'd shoot me down like I was being irrational. And I'll admit it, I started firing back. Little jabs. Petty insults. One night, after she shut down my questions again, I snapped. Maybe if you used that shiny accounting degree of yours, you'd see how ridiculous this all is. Things boiled over on July 5th. I pulled into the driveway and saw a lineup of cars, Mariel's, Elena's, Julian's, and a couple others I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. Inside, I found them all seated in the living room. The vibe was off. Serious. Cold. Clara pointed to a chair. Ethan, sit. I did, slowly, trying to keep my face neutral. What's going on? Mariel answered with that hushed, poisonous tone of hers. We're here to settle the matter of grandchildren. My jaw clenched. Is that so? Well, I've already said. She cut me off with a raised hand. We're not discussing adoption, or test tubes, or any unnatural method. This is about family. I looked around. Clara was staring at the floor. Elena biting her lip. Julian, smug, leaned back like he was proud of something. Then Clara snapped. Stop acting clueless, Ethan. You've been dragging your feet long enough. I'm done waiting. I stared at her. I never said no to kids. I just said not on your mother's timeline. Mariel stepped in like she'd been rehearsing it. Our solution is simple, she said, voice smooth as a blade. Since Elena can't conceive, and you refuse to step up, Clara will carry the child. Julian will be the biological father. Elena will raise it. For a second, I thought I misheard. I blinked, waiting for anyone, to laugh. No one did. What? I croaked. My heart pounded so loud it muffled the room. Julian leaned forward with that infuriating smirk. We're not asking for permission, man. It's already in motion. We just thought you deserved to know. That's when the rage hit me like a flood. I turned to Clara, my voice barely contained. So this is it? You cooked up this nightmare behind my back, and now you're just informing me like it's business. She shrugged. It's for Elena. She almost died. This gives her hope. You're selfish, Ethan. You always have been. Mariel chimed in, smug and vicious. You should be grateful we're including you at all. You can stay or leave. Either way, the baby will carry our blood. Something inside me snapped. You're all insane. I roared, and before I knew it, I lunged at Julian. My fist connected with his jaw, sent him crashing to the carpet. Elena screamed. Clara grabbed my arm, trying to pull me back, and I shoved her off without thinking, adrenaline drowning every logical thought. Get out of my house. I bellowed. They scattered, though not before hurling their parting shots. Mariel shrieked, You're an unworthy husband. My daughter deserves so much better. Elena sobbed as Julian clutched his jaw, muttering curses under his breath. Clara was the last to leave the living room, but instead of the front door, she stormed into our bedroom, her face twisted with fury. I followed. Slammed the door behind us. You're actually letting them manipulate you into sleeping with your sister's husband? I said, eyes wide. That's beyond vile. She snapped her head toward me, flipping her hair like a weapon. You have no idea how hopeless Elena feels. Her voice was shaking, but her tone stayed sharp. And you, with your big dreams, your ego, you were never going to step up when we needed you to. My mother's right. She could die tomorrow, never holding a grandchild. You don't even care. I sneered. No. You're the blind one. You've let that witch of a mother twist you into something I don't even recognize. You really think sleeping with your brother-in-law is the answer? You can't see how disgusting this is. Our voices rose, circling the same arguments, louder each time. Shouting. Swearing. Hurt layered over anger, over exhaustion. Eventually, she locked herself in the bathroom, slamming the door in my face. I left. I didn't trust myself to stay. The rage running through me was white-hot. And honestly, it scared me. Because buried under that fury was something even colder, a numbness that said, let it all burn. The next morning, I met up with Elliot, my best friend. We grabbed coffee at a quiet little bistro. I laid it all out for him, every ugly detail. He just stared, jaw slack. Holy hell, Ethan, that's That's beyond messed up. You need to get away from that toxic hellscape, man. I scowled, leaning over the table. And what? Just leave. Let them win. Dark thoughts kept pushing their way into my mind. I pictured taking Julian down a few more pegs, embarrassing Mariel in front of her precious circle. Part of me wanted revenge. Elliot gave me a look, serious, grounded. Be careful. That kind of rage? It doesn't go away on its own. It consumes people. That night, when I came home, Clara was sitting alone at the dining table, her eyes red and glassy. Mom's back in the hospital, she said quietly, barely above a whisper. She had another dizzy spell. I crossed my arms, unmoved. So what? I said flatly. That old bat could drop dead and I'd sleep just fine. She flinched like I'd slapped her. How can you say that? She whispered. Because she's a manipulative harpy, I growled. And you? You're just as bad for letting her drag you into all this insanity. Clara stood slowly, fire flaring in her eyes. Don't you dare talk about my mother like that. She's the only one who truly loves me. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Yeah? Then go cuddle up to her while you volunteer to sleep with your sister's husband. Real mother-daughter bonding. Her hand whipped across my face before I could finish the sentence. The sting hit instantly, and for a second, I saw red. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms, but I didn't move. I wouldn't let myself cross that line. Go ahead, I hissed. Defend her. Defend this entire disgusting plan. You're just as rotten as she is. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I hate you, she whispered. She brushed past me, grabbed her handbag, and slammed the door behind her. For days after that, we barely spoke. We moved like strangers under the same roof, passing each other in silence, or trading poison-tipped words when silence didn't cut it. Then, out of nowhere, Clara knocked on my study door one evening. She opened it slow, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I shouldn't have slapped you, she said, voice low. And I'm sorry for what I said. I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. What changed? She exhaled hard. Elena's on suicide watch. Mom's back in the hospital, and even there, she's still scolding me for not being pregnant. They're all counting on me to fix it. Her voice cracked. I feel trapped, Ethan. But I can't betray them. They're my family. I studied her for a long moment. She looked tired, but her chin still tilted in that familiar, prideful way. You feel guilty, I said. That much is obvious. But do you regret it? Do you actually regret planning to sleep with Julian? She swallowed hard. Mom insists it's the only way. I don't know anymore. Cut the nonsense, Clara, I said, voice low. You're not a kid. You can walk away. You just won't. Her lips trembled. If I walk away, who's going to help Elena? She's so fragile. This might break her completely. I looked at her, and all those old feelings came crawling back, the ones I thought I'd buried. That aching need to be enough for her. To be chosen, for once, over her mother, her sister, everyone else. Why did I still care? I didn't even know. Maybe it was pride. Maybe I just wanted to feel like I mattered in her world. Finally, I let out a long breath. Fine, I said at last, my voice flat. We'll talk about having a baby, our baby. But there's one condition. Clara blinked, eyes narrowing. No more talk about Julian. That whole idea is off the table. Permanently. She looked surprised. You're serious? You'd actually consider it? I shrugged like it was no big deal, though deep down, I wanted her to know that I held the cards now. If it shuts your mother up and keeps you from giving yourself to him, yeah, I'll consider it. Her expression shifted, a mix of relief and something else. Entitlement. Like she was finally getting what she deserved. And in the darkest corners of my mind, I knew the truth. I wasn't offering this out of love. I was staking my claim, trying to keep her tethered. I didn't want her carrying Julian's child, not because I wanted a baby, but because I couldn't stand the thought of losing control. That night, we shared a bed for the first time in days. It wasn't tender. It wasn't healing. It was survival, two people pretending to fix something already broken, clinging to an illusion of closeness. Over the next 6 months, I gave her everything she asked for. A new couch? Ordered. A spa retreat? Booked at a 5-star resort. Whatever she wanted, I handed it over, and she soaked it up like sun on a summer day. Every time she smiled and leaned in with one of her little pecks on the cheek, it felt hollow, perfunctory. But I still took a twisted kind of satisfaction from it. Because even though I was the one jumping through hoops, I held the power. They all wanted something from me, Clara, Mariel, Elena, and I made sure they never forgot who controlled the timeline. I dangled fatherhood in front of them like bait, feeding their hope just enough to keep them quiet. I wasn't just giving in, I was managing the game. Mariel had been mostly silent since her latest hospital visit. She glared at me when we crossed paths, but she didn't push. She was cunning enough to know when to bide her time. Elena stopped showing up, too. No more tears at the door. I assumed she'd sunk herself into therapy, maybe finally starting to stabilize. Then came the day Clara waltzed in after one of her shopping sprees, practically glowing. I found the perfect spot for a romantic getaway, she said, waving a magazine in front of me. Santorini. Or maybe the Maldives. I want us to celebrate. You know, a new start. She tossed her hair and smiled like a woman starring in a perfume ad. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't know you were into beaches and sunsets. Thought cities were more your thing. I can adapt, she said lightly. Besides, once we conceive, life will change. We deserve this before the real responsibility starts. There it was again, the assumption that I'd fund the fantasy while she reaped the attention. I didn't laugh, though I wanted to. I decided to up the stakes instead. So I planned it. Plane tickets to Santorini. A 2-week stay in a villa carved into the cliffs. Private pool, panoramic view, the whole package. It cost a fortune, and part of me was eager to see her reaction. Would she light up? Would she finally show some real appreciation? February 20th. The tickets arrived. I came home early, ready to surprise her. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. Upstairs, I found a note on our bed, Clara's handwriting, delicate and neat. I read the first line, and my stomach turned to stone. Ethan. You and I both know nothing in our relationship really changes, no matter how hard we try. I love you, but I also love my family. I can't keep watching my sister suffer. My mother's health is fragile. They need me to give them an heir, one that Elena and Julian can raise as their own. You've made it clear you'll never truly agree, no matter how much we beg. That's why I'm doing this on my own. I'm leaving for a month. Julian, my parents, and I will be gone. We won't tell you where. You just try to stop us. Please don't. I have to do this for Elena. Don't worry. This doesn't change us. I'll come back pregnant. We'll pretend nothing happened. The baby will be theirs. This is my decision. And I know you love me enough to understand it someday. Don't try to find me. Clara. I read it again. And again. My hands started shaking. My chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. She chose them. She chose him. Julian. The man I punched in my own living room, that Julian. I felt something rising in me, something darker than anything I'd felt before. I grabbed the plane tickets and hurled them across the room. Watched them scatter on the floor like confetti from a joke I wasn't in on. The villa. The trip. The gifts. None of it mattered. She didn't want me. She wanted approval. She wanted to serve her family, keep her mother happy, make her sister feel whole, and I was just supposed to play along like it was normal. I dropped onto the edge of the bed, breathing hard, choking on my own fury. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. She'd left. And the more I thought about it, the more my chest burned. They were all in on it. That thought circled my mind like a vulture, over and over. This was never about me. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a partner. I was either a tool to use or a hurdle to bulldoze. I sat in silence for over an hour, just staring at her note, rereading every line until the words burned into my brain. Every sentence a knife. Every curve of her handwriting a reminder of how far she'd gone. And somewhere in that silence, I found clarity. I'd had enough. Yes, I was no saint. I'd said cruel things, played manipulative games. But this betrayal made everything I'd done look tame. After 2 more days of pacing, of simmering in my own hatred, I made my move. I called a real estate agent, asked what it would take to rent the house out, fast. Then I sold off everything worth more than $100. Electronics, furniture, even the car. Gone. I emptied our joint accounts down to the lint. Left just enough to show it wasn't a total error. A few sad dollars that wouldn't buy her lunch. If Clara came back thinking she'd parade back into my life with a belly full of betrayal, she'd find nothing but echoing walls and frozen accounts. When I told Elliot, my only real friend, he was stunned. Dude, are you seriously leaving the country? He asked, brows drawn. Absolutely, I growled. I'm done being their puppet. Let them figure out how to raise this miracle baby without me. I'm not giving them a damn dime. He exhaled, shook his head. If you need anything, money, a place, you know I've got your back. Just promise me you won't do anything you'll regret. I forced a grin. Too late. I already quit my job this morning, and my flight leaves tomorrow. The next day, I stood in our empty living room. There was nothing left but a single chair and a chipped table I didn't bother to list. I felt satisfied. Not healed, not whole, but satisfied in the way a man feels after burning the bridge behind him. I walked out with a duffel bag in one hand and Clara's phone in the other. She'd left it behind. Probably didn't even realize it. By the time the plane took off, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't even sad. I was cold, carved hollow by betrayal. 26, almost 27, with a mechanical engineering degree and nothing tying me down. Canada offered one thing I needed most, a clean break. 3 weeks after landing in Toronto, I finally powered on Clara's phone. Just curious. Sick curiosity, I guess. My new apartment smelled like mildew, but the Wi-Fi worked. Notifications came pouring in. One caught my eye. A family group chat, titled simply, Baby. I opened it. The latest message was from Elena. It's finally happened, everyone. After more than 20 tries, we're going to have a grandchild. Attached were 2 photos. One of Julian, shirtless and smirking, his arm draped around Clara, who wore nothing but her underwear, sweat on her brow, and a grin on her face that screamed I won. The second? A pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. I knew what they were doing, but seeing it, feeling it, it made me sick. My jaw locked. My teeth clenched. I could feel the rage pulsing through every inch of me, but I was thousands of miles away. I couldn't punch Julian again. Couldn't burn Mariel's house to the ground. All I could do was turn off the phone. I paced my tiny apartment for hours. That image burned into my eyelids. Her face. His. The test. All of it. By morning, the rage had frozen into something worse. Numb resolve. No turning back now. I picked up shifts in a warehouse on the edge of town. Hauling crates, loading trucks, sweating through hours just to keep my mind occupied. The pay wasn't bad, and it kept me away from anything that even resembled Clara. Then came Sunday morning, and a new punch to the gut. Clara remembered her old phone number. She texted, Love, I'm home now. Everything went perfectly. I'm pregnant with Julian's child. Please come back. I have news for you. I stared at it, a bitter laugh slipping from my mouth. Love. After that, more messages followed. Darling, come home. We need to talk. The accounts are empty. The cards don't work. I need money for groceries. I laughed harder. Now she wanted help? Now she wanted me to fund the life she built with my brother-in-law? Not a chance. The phone rang. Over and over. I didn't answer. Then Elena called. Then Julian. Then Mariel, of all people. Blocked. 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 They actually believed I was still part of their twisted little family. That I'd roll over and support their insanity. No. That version of me was dead. Then my father called. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. Ethan, he said, voice tired. Your mother's worried. We heard you're in Canada. Clara's trying to reach you. What's going on? She said you abandoned her, my father said over the phone. That you left her with no money. I grimaced. Dad, stay out of it. She's saying. I left, I interrupted, because Clara decided to get pregnant with her sister's husband. That's the real story. She and her mother manipulated everyone. There was silence on the other end. Then his voice, quieter this time. Are you sure? Maybe you're. No, I snapped. I'll send you the pictures. I hung up. The next day, Dad called back, furious this time. Ethan, he said, seething. That woman is insane. And her mother? I can't believe they did this to you. You made the right call. For once, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness. Not closure. But a thin sliver of vindication. Over the following weeks, I occasionally turned Clara's old phone back on, not because I missed her. Because I wanted to watch them squirm. The messages poured in. From Mariel. You irresponsible little ingrate. Clara is losing weight from the stress. If anything happens to my grandchild, it's your fault. From Elena. We just want you to come back, Ethan. This baby is a blessing. It doesn't have to ruin your marriage. We can still be a family. From Julian. You think you can just run away from your problems? You owe us an apology, man. Grow up. Each one made my stomach churn. I blocked them all. Eventually, I brought my father up to stay with me. Flew him out. Showed him I was building something new. His presence helped ground me in reality again. Reminded me of who I was before they twisted me into someone I barely recognized. I landed a better job. One that actually made use of my engineering degree. The money was good. Good enough to move again. This time to Montreal. A new city. More distance. Canada became both my escape and my battleground, the place where I began rebuilding who I was. Months passed. I finally filed for divorce. Elliot connected me with a lawyer, an old friend of his. When he heard the story, even he couldn't believe it. But he agreed we had a solid case. Clara had abandoned our marriage, left to get pregnant by another man, and then had the nerve to come crawling back asking for support. We submitted everything. Her handwritten note, screenshots of that twisted family group chat. It took time, but I stayed patient. Then, out of nowhere, fate threw in a final twist. Elliot messaged me, said he heard through someone that Clara had miscarried. She lost Julian's baby. Mariel, predictably, blamed me for causing the emotional stress. Elena turned on Clara, blaming her for the entire disaster. Their little empire of dysfunction started collapsing in on itself. Nearly a year passed before I saw Clara again, through a video call. It came from an unknown number. Out of curiosity, I answered. There she was. Her face filled the screen. Pale, hollow, eyes like glass. She looked 10 years older. Ethan, she breathed. Please don't hang up. I didn't say a word. I kept my camera off. I lost the baby, she whispered. The doctors, they had to take my uterus. I can't ever get pregnant again. Her voice cracked. I cut them off. My mom, Julian, Elena. It wasn't worth it. None of it. I'm sorry. The words drifted out like smoke, empty and fading. And I felt nothing. Not pity, not sympathy. Just a quiet, bitter triumph. She had lost everything. And that was the price for trying to destroy me. I let the silence hang for a moment before speaking. Let's keep this short, I said, my voice low and steady. You made your choices, Clara. You mistook my love for obedience. You tried to please that miserable mother of yours and expected me to fall in line. Her tears spilled. I know, she choked. I made a horrible mistake. I let them control me. I was arrogant. I was, please, can we fix this? I laughed, cold and humorless. Forgive you? No. I hope your mother never sees a grandchild. Ever. She poisoned you, and you let her. Her face crumpled. Ethan, Enough. I snapped. I'm done. The divorce will be finalized soon. After that, I won't owe you a thing. Not your regrets. Not your medical bills. Not your guilt. I paused. Just long enough to let the final dagger land. When Mariel finally dies, I said slowly, I'll find her grave and piss on it. That's how much she means to me. Clara broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She sobbed into her hands, shaking like the world was crumbling around her, and maybe it was. She whispered one last thing. The doctors say I might never fully recover. I have no one. I stared at the screen, and I ended the call. Just like that. She called again. And again. I blocked the number. In late 2019, the divorce came through. My lawyer secured it clean. Clara walked away with almost nothing. I was ordered to pay alimony for a single year. That was it. Then the world shut down. The pandemic hit. Streets emptied. Life slowed. And I had time to think. Time to admit the truth. I wasn't innocent. I controlled Clara with money. I insulted her when she didn't meet my expectations. I lashed out at her family, even though they were twisted beyond belief. But none of that excused what they did. None of it justified her betrayal. That was the final straw.